Welcome back to the Constitution, line by line. I'm Senator Mike Lee, and today we'll be looking at the final section of Article 1 of the Constitution. That is Article 1, Section 10. This section explains the powers that are explicitly denied to the state governments. The text of Article 1, Section 10 reads, quote, "No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for the executing its inspection laws. And the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in times of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war, unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay." Close quote. In Article 1, Section 9, we saw that the Constitution specifically denied certain powers to the federal government. In Section 10, these prohibitions are largely duplicated and applied to the states. This is noteworthy because the rest of the Constitution has very little to say about what states can and cannot do. It's mostly concerned with limiting the power of the federal government, while leaving the states broad latitude to operate as they please. In the 10th Amendment of the Bill of Rights, for example, the states are given authority over every issue not explicitly named in the Constitution. Still, there were some things that the founders didn't want even the smaller state governments to be able to do, certain liberties that they didn't want infringed. Some of these have to do with the application of justice, while others are more concerned with facilitating trade and commerce across state lines, which is a continuing theme that we've seen throughout Article 1 in response to the difficulties created by the earlier Articles of Confederation. This section also prevents the states from overstepping their authority in military matters or national defense. The first clause of Article 1, Section 10, sometimes known as the Contracts Clause, preserves the demarcation between federal and state authority. In Article 1, Section 8, we saw that Congress is given the authority to enter into treaties, to grant letters of marque and reprisal, to coin money and issue legal tender. The Contracts Clause prevents the states from creating conflicting laws that would undermine congressional authority. After all, the power to create a national currency wouldn't mean much if the states could each coin their own money or issue paper bills as a substitute, nor would a national treaty be binding if the states could individually enter into conflicting agreements. This clause also doubles down on prohibiting bills of attainder, which allow for the conviction of suspected criminals without a trial, ex post facto laws, which create crimes retroactively, and the granting of titles of nobility, all of which were denied to Congress in Article 1, Section 9. The most contentious part of this clause is the line prohibiting states from impairing the obligation of contracts. This language gives the clause its name, and that was the source of considerable litigation in the 19th century. The second clause prevents the states from imposing duties and tariffs to interfere with commerce with their neighbors. And the third clause ensures that the states are not able to start or wage wars unless they're under threat of actual invasion. One particularly notable challenge to the Contracts Clause came in Fletcher versus Peck in 1810. That case centered around the Yazoo land scandal of 1794. This was a scandal in which some corrupt politicians in Georgia accepted bribes to sell 40 million acres of land in what was then called the Yazoo region of Georgia. And they sold the land to speculators at severely reduced prices. Amidst public outrage, the subsequent Georgia legislature sought to reverse the sale. But the Supreme Court ruled in a unanimous decision that the contracts were binding and that the Contracts Clause of the Constitution prevented the state of Georgia from nullifying them. In the majority opinion, Chief Justice John Marshall defined a contract as, quote, a compact between two or more parties, close quote, clearing up some ambiguity in the wording of the clause. This case marks one of the first times that the Supreme Court acted to overturn a state law. By going through the text of Article 1 with me, one line at a time, I hope you've been able to gain a greater appreciation for why the Constitution is important and for the various considerations that motivated its drafting in the first place. It's not just a dusty historical relic. It remains a guiding light for how our government ought to operate, even if we occasionally, or more than occasionally, fall short. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the Constitution line by line. I hope it's been as enjoyable for you as it has been for me.